Hello everybody and welcome to episode number 7 of the Veilcast. I can't believe it's almost been 2 months already. Before you know it, the game's going to be here. And today we are talking about the BSC map reveal. The BSC map reveal. I'm super excited. I think there's a lot of awesome stuff. This is one of the super crazy. That's why it's BSC. They call it batshit crazy. And helping me talk about today is Velik and Alistair, as always. And coming once again all the way from France, Chris. How you doing?
Doing great.
Everybody's doing good?
May has 5 weekends, which means that we're going to have 5 Veilcasts on May.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I'm like Wikipedia.
Dropping a knowledge bomb. He's looking at Wikipedia on the other.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right in. Today we're talking about the fractured map. I got a picture of it right here in the middle of the screen. This is a drawing sent out by City State Entertainment, Camelot Unchained. We're going to talk about it. First, real quick, let's watch a little bit of a video where they actually revealed it. Let me go ahead and cue that sucker up here. Let's take a look.
Pieces of land kind of separated. Well, before we launched our Kickstarter and we revealed the name of the game to be Camelot Unchained, there was a lot of speculation, even as to going on today, as to why the name Camelot Unchained. Was it a reference to either Dark Age of Camelot from EA? Was it a reference to myself being, you know, unchained somehow? Or the IP just, you know, calling it Camelot Unchained because it's just a different version of Camelot? Well, actually, if you look at this map, and if you look at some of our old videos, if you look very carefully in those videos, you can see an island that's sort of floating away. Well, when some of the stabilizers were pulled, Camelot became unchained. And then, when more of the stabilizers were pulled, it became unchained even more. Therefore, Camelot Unchained. All of the world, all the pieces of the world, they separated as well. For now, we'll only show you these. So this could represent a bit more accurate portrayal of what the map looks like. As you can see, you have your safe areas, you have other big land masses, you have small land masses, and they're all separated, of course, by water. Now, this isn't the most original idea out there, certainly. We've seen other games that have similar setups to this. However, here's where it gets really crazy. So, what can be broken can be fixed. What if part of the role the players play in our game, when you capture territory, when you lay down new stabilizers, you can begin to reform the map. And slowly, over the days and weeks, some of the map can come together again. So maybe you guys have been able to put some of the map together again.
All right, so you didn't get to see his face. That was actually Mark Jacobs talking about it there. So, Alistair, you're Mr. Wikipedia. If you've never seen anything about the game before, if you're being introduced to it for the very first time, tell me, how is this going to work? What is this jigsaw puzzle all about? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, from what he says there, you know, these islands are all separated by water, and they have stabilizers on them, and then players can take control from those stabilizers. Now, I don't know if the stabilizers are something that we build, they're not there, or if they're already there and you just kind of go and take control and build around them. I think that's more reasonable. So
we'll see. The land, everything is split up, and then there's a thing you put down that puts it back together. Yeah,
exactly. And when you build the stabilizer, then, you know, it starts to pull the land towards your own land, towards, you know, if you're a Viking, it starts pulling you towards the Viking area. If you're a Tuatha, etc., etc. The thing is, I mean, we don't know exactly how it works if you like skip island. If it even, you know, if you go straight to like a center island and then you build a stabilizer on the center, how does it work? I mean, is it gonna pull and then pull all the other islands together? It's really I
mean, there's lots of mechanic things that we don't know how it could all work out. I guess let's start. Why in the first place? Okay, let's start at the very beginning. Do you think that the world's going to start all broken into pieces, and then, Or is it going to start together and slowly move out? Or what's it going to look like when you first hop in?
It will start into pieces. He hints on that in the BSC video, and I think the lore also hints to that, because the game starts after the big explosion. So the world is all the Veilstorm. So the world is all fractured. So I think we'll start with a very scattered map. Maybe even Camelot will be all scattered also, because if the map, we know the map is just a concept, but maybe if the concept is accurate, Camelot itself will be in many pieces. So you might have to. That would be probably one of the other objectives, PvP objectives, to actually put Camelot back together.
Right, and in the video here, you can see the stuff they put together. It says Camelot, right? And so, is that a city? Is that part of a huge zone?
I think
Velek,
there's going to be a city.
A city, right? And Velek, I'm sure, RP guy, you probably have some ideas. I say this every time, but this is maybe the craziest idea, right? Like, have you ever seen a game where literally the entire game world are separate, like, entities that move around and, like, collide together? Like...
No, especially, and it's really going to change how everything works. And Alistair a minute ago mentioned, you have to look at every part of it, because Alistair earlier mentioned having the stabilizers pull the islands towards yourself, and I've been thinking about that a lot, and wondering if that's actually how it works. That maybe the stabilizers pull your continent closer to the middle. Because if you think about it conceptually, how would that work? If you're pulling everything out of the middle, then how do other people grab it and pull it back that way? It would pull everything all the way apart from the middle.
But the idea.
So
the idea is that as you conquer things, they get attached to your territory, so it expands your territory. So if they don't come towards your territory, just your territory goes to the middle, then not necessarily they're going to be touching. So I don't know how exactly that is going to work.
I was kind of wondering if maybe it's a mix of the two. Like maybe for the closest territories, it pulls it out to your island, but then maybe once you get closer to the center, it starts pulling things back into the center. I mean, they could do it where everything pulls towards you, but then theoretically, I guess the whole world essentially would shift one way or the other inevitably. In
chat, Genocidal is asking about how does it all start? Do you get a free island? And looking on the map here, it looks like maybe if you're Arthurians, maybe you start with this big area, because they've talked about maybe like a starter area where you kind of learn the game a little bit, and there's a little bit of free area.
The safe part.
So the top and the bottom right and the bottom left, you're pulling these pieces back to you, and it's not like you're using a tugboat and hooking it up and towing it back. Like you put a stabilizer down, and it like attracts the land somehow. What's the point of doing this? Like what kind of benefits are there for him?
I actually think it's not going to be. We have to start from the principle. I think it's not going to be instant. It won't just disappear and or be tugged right away. It will change, just like we know that once a faction takes control of a stabilizer, the world changes, the island changes to match the needs of that faction. Probably as the world change, that change is a consequence for the island going closer to your own safe zone. I think that's
so if your Viking starts going closer to north, and then snow starts appearing and stuff, right?
Exactly.
On the territory, on the land.
You think the land might change? It might go from
that would be cool.
green, and then it's... Okay.
Yeah, that's what they said, that the visual, the landscape also changes in terms of, not like the raw landscape, you're not going to have more mountains or something, but, there's going to be snow, and the animals kind of change, because they're now conforming to your realm's style. So if you're Tuatha, everything becomes a forest, and that's it. Just kidding. But if you're Viking, then there's snow, and then Tuatha probably going to have vines growing everywhere, because that's what I think about when I think of the TDD. And I don't know for Arthurians though, it's probably going to be like all grassy and Camelot-like. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, but for Ziz's question though, I mean, what is going to be the benefit? I mean, if you pull these things closer, let's assume that we pull them out of the middle, we pull everything closer to our starting continent when we get the stabilizers up. Then, if there's a mine or a resource on that territory, and we pull it away from everyone else, we're denying them that resource, and we can get to it more easily. We can start using it and defend it more easily than they'll be able to.
So it makes it harder for them to get it, and easier because we're trying to get it back to our maybe starter area or wherever our save point is. Strategically, having stuff closer to you is easier, right? If your base is way out in the middle, reinforcements take travel time to get out there. Your stuff is out there. If you can pull it to you and have this kind of giant landmass, obviously strategically that makes it good. I've been seeing in chat people talking about
harder to disrupt too. Like if the land is attached to another part of your land, then you have multiple ways to go in that island. Now, if there's like a bridge connecting them because it's a little far away, then the bridge is like a choke point, right? And all your reinforcements are going to have to come necessarily through that bridge, and then it makes it easier for the enemy to block your reinforcement, etc. So I mean, territory.
Are there going to be bridges? Are they going to be boats? Is it going to be fast travel? It's
I think they mentioned boats and bridges. So.
Yeah, they mentioned that you travel through boats, and then as they start to get closer, then you can build a bridge. I don't know if they touch like on his schematic there, because we know that when the game comes out, the shape of the islands, everything is not necessarily going to be like in the video that we show. That's just an illustration. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know.
Well, they mentioned that you can change how much power you send to one of the stabilizers. So maybe if you go full power into a stabilizer, you can pull it all the way up to your continent potentially. But maybe if you only go like half power, you can just pull it close enough to build a bridge. So then you would decide, like, how much do we want to maintain this stabilizer? Do we want it close enough for a bridge, or do we want it all the way over to us?
There's just so much stuff to think about on this. I mean, because it's not just other players. So starting again, like, you start with your own little area, you go out and you find, I want this island because it's got some cool mines on it or whatever, right? And you start trying to pull it back to you. So you're taking boats back and forth. Let's talk about for a moment a problem with a lot of other games, especially big PvP games. We've seen it in Guild Wars 2, ESO, is the Zerg, right? There's usually a lot of times big Zerg, and a lot of times with good gameplay you can overcome it, but nobody likes to run into a Zerg of 200 players. Does this help?
No.
Right? I mean, sometimes it's fun, but usually it slows the game. Does this help? I mean, if you have to take boats across, what if the boats can only hold 10 people? Right? And so it breaks up the Zerg. Does this just naturally in itself have a good Zerg counter that could help the game?
That or the bridges as well are choke points that can kill a Zerg, and I think there's a few mechanics they've talked about that will prevent or at least reduce the Zerg style. But I think the island and also the way the travel time implemented by the islands and the exploded map will change that. If you take 5-10 minutes to go back to the fight after you're dead, you can't maintain a Zerg, because everybody will just skim the exterior of the Zerg, and the people who have to take 5-10 minutes to come back, the Zerg will be reduced to a small group pretty fast by even individuals or small other groups that just apply guerrilla style combat.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that I really think the travel time is going to be one of the biggest factors for this. I mean, you've got boats which could potentially break people up and get them separated while they're traveling across, and then maybe you can fight them and attack them while they're in the water and kill them.
There's no instant travel, right?
Yeah, there's no instant travel, and travel time across the world, if, for instance, because we know they're not really going to be pushing for instantaneous travel, and I know a lot of us really don't want them to have instant travel across the realm, but I do imagine that they will have some kind of a respawn back towards your base. So if a big Zerg ball goes way deep in your territory, not only do they have travel time to get back there when they die, but if you're extended into, like, say, around Camelot and you're fighting, and you see all these people, raging, going around, killing your back lines and everything, you can all be like, well, we're going to respawn back at our home continent and come back at them from the other direction.
Yeah,
because
I think you can't have
there a lot faster than they probably can.
You can't have the conversation about travel time without talking about spawn points, right? Because that's the whole deal. Yeah. So I agree. I mean, it will depend on how they make the mechanics of
spawn points.
Yeah, I mean, if you where do you resurrect when you die? like that matters, right? Because if you resurrect on the initial base, then you got to go through all the islands to get back to where you were fighting, all the territory that you have. But if you can resurrect on the island next to where you died, for example, then it's a whole different story, right? So there is everything will factor on breaking zergs and everything, and the same thing. Well, we were talking at the beginning of the discussion where if you skip a bunch of islands and go to the center, then you're kind of just, you can't get there easily, you can't reinforce it, you can't get the resources that you take at the center back to your base, so there's kind of no point to skip territory, because if you do, then, you're just disconnected from your main base too much to defend any territory at the center.
You don't have any supply line, yeah.
Yeah, and you just mentioned in chat that, what if somebody were to go to the center of the map and build a stabilizer? And I was just thinking, I've been thinking of stabilizers as a one-way process. Like you come from your territory, you go to the extent of it, you build a stabilizer to pull the next continent towards you. But I actually think it would be more interesting if you have to build the stabilizer or repair it or whatever, and then you have to cross to that other continent and build a matching one before they start pulling towards each other. Because then you have to, you have to defend that other place on the other continent to keep it up. It gives you another defense.
There's actually an already in place system for that. Example for the crafting, there's the system of attunement. Maybe you have to go to the continent, repair the stabilizer, and go back to your base and attune the two stabilizers to start the pull. And then we talked a bit about the changes that happen to landscape the moment you take control of the stabilizer. Maybe the shape of the islands, since it's built like a puzzle, maybe the shape of the island will change, so you don't have to actually make the pieces match before you reach the center. They will change and then adapt to each other as they come closer to your island, as the landscape changes.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the whole concept. There's no point on going. I mean, if they do it like that with the attunement system you mentioned, there's no point on just going to the center of the map and then trying to build a stabilizer there, because you're not going to have any other stabilizer near you to attune it to. So you're not going to even be able to. So you can't pull the center island without having an island next to it. So you got to build your way up to the center, essentially.
Let's talk about the center island for a moment, because you would think that's going to be maybe the most contested, or maybe the hardest thing to get is going to be that center island, right? Because you're going to have to go through all the other islands, and
you got to build a line, right?
Right, you got to build this line plus the other two sides. Do you think in the center is going to be, what is Camelot? On this screenshot here from the YouTube video, it says Camelot in the middle. It sounds like maybe it's a city or a zone. Is that where the depths is located? Do you have to pull that to your side to get access to it? I'm thinking in my head, what is this thing?
Maybe we're gonna have some kind of Darkness Falls there, right?
Right.
I mean this dungeon that is PvP, PvE, right? But instead of having these mobs dropping stuff, or giving XP or anything, because Camelot Unchained doesn't have that kind of stuff. They're just, you have these big mobs that you can kill for resources. Get the scale of the big dragon that sits there, or whatever it is that you want to do. So maybe if you control the city, then you have access to resources that enable your realm to craft a bunch of really cool stuff.
That kind of fits with what I was thinking of, because I was thinking maybe just taking parts of the city would give you resources at the end of the day, in the end of the day report. But I think it actually would be better if it gave you access to the ability to go kill things and get resources and such.
Well, in chat, someone's talking about how if you read some of those stories that they've put out, the access to the depths moves around. There's one story where someone goes into the depths and it's moving around. Well, if this island is the access to the depths, that island can move around. So this gives you an interesting option. You can, as your realm, try to get it back to your side, which makes it easier to farm. Or what if you send like a squadron out, and they go and they get stuff, but they got to travel all the way back? It's kind of one of those.
Yeah, I mean the encumbrance system. It's not. That's what is cool about Camelot Unchained and the way they handle merchandise and inventory capacity and the way you carry things, because you just don't have to. There's no instant travel. and teleport and stuff. So you have to think how you're going to come back with all the stuff you took, right? Yeah. It's not just like most MMOs, you just have to get there. Even if you die on the way, it doesn't matter, right? But with Camelot Unchained, you have to think, okay, I got there, I got the resource, but now what? Am I going to run back super slow? Am I going to mount a caravan and go through the sea?
And then they kill you and take the stuff that you got. And
exactly. So it doesn't accomplish anything. You got to have a better plan, right? So that is awesome, I guess.
But it could be a lot quicker. Maybe it's the middle of the night, or maybe you have a really good group trying to get all those islands gathered together for a safer route. May be a lot harder to come by.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to try to make a video of that.
Reward. It's always the risk versus reward. If it's a low pop time, and you think it is a safe time to do that, and you end up getting ganked and losing your resources. You tried. You weighted the reward versus the risk, and you miscalculated. Also, I want to go back a bit to what we discussed a bit before, the respawns. I'd like kind of a system like ESO has with the forward camps. Only it's not a spawn. Oh, no. It's something you build. It's something the crafters build, and to be able to build a forward camp, you have to have control of the stabilizer. That means you have to conquer your way to the island you want to go.
It's all going to come down to balance. It's all,
that makes attacking so much weaker than defending, than it already is. Like by definition, attacking is harder. Just because you're attacking, right? But if the defender has a stabilizer on the island and can build a forward camp, and the attacker can't because they don't have a stabilizer on that island, then that makes attacking much crappier. I don't think that works.
I'm really feeling like, especially with the discussions they've had on the official forum, maybe we should have a whole video on respawn system.
We could. I mean, it's all going to come down to balance, right? If it's balanced well, it could be good. If it's not balanced, it'd be bad. I like Chris's idea because it adds something else to crafters, where crafters feel important and crafters want to be out in the battlefield. Let's table that conversation, because I think spawn points, maybe once we get some information, that could be a whole video.
Yeah.
Let me jump into... we got a second part of the video that we're going to watch here that's going to give us a little more information, and there's still so much to talk about. Let's take a look at this second part of the video here.
Putting things back together. So you could see the territory of these maps, changing over time. That maybe for a short period of time the Arthurians might have an advantage there, or the TDDs could have an advantage, or the Vikings could have an advantage. But it can all change. And it can change daily, it could change weekly, or it could change monthly. And the point is, it's up to you. It's up to your ability as players, your ability as a realm, to work together, to try to put the pieces of this world back together again, to protect what you take, to make sure that your forests are safe from the other realms, that your castles are protected, that your mountains and your mines are closer to your own territory. These are the decisions your realm is going to have to make. Where are you going to put the stabilizers? How much power is going to go into the stabilizers? And slowly, over time, you will see the effects of that work as these islands literally come together and reform during gameplay.
All right, so one thing that is maybe the coolest part of this. Again, it's a sandboxy game. We got to create it. We got to make how big we want our islands together. We can go take their islands, and also when you're running out there, the land's going to change. Before you're going to be like, hey, this used to be the edge, and there was water here. Now there's more land. How cool is it that how dynamic it changes the world?
Yeah, imagine, like sitting on the edge of the island and looking, look, it's coming, like, it's coming. And then you see the island, slowly approaching, and you stand there for like an hour, like, oh my god. Yeah.
So can you be on the other island while it's moving and, like, Leo DiCaprio it, like, I'm the king of the world, right? It's moving into land, right?
But I can imagine one that this would create a certain degree of tension too, especially if your side's like over there. You know, you've been trying to hold that type of territory or get to that island, and you can see it moving away from you towards another faction, and you know that once they join, it's on. Both sides are going to be coming in towards it. They're going to be doing their thing, and this leads to certain. Go ahead.
Totally gonna run in front of the army, screaming "Death, death!" Then. Oh man.
I can see some really cool gameplay elements. I'm thinking of, and some of you may have read the book by Brandon Sanderson. He's got a series of books now, the Stormlight Archives. If you haven't read it, they're awesome books. I bring it up because in the books they have like a land, an area where it's all broken up. It kind of looks like this, what we see. And between the land, instead of being water, it's like these huge crevices. And while they're fighting in the book, like people get shoved off of the edge into the crevices, and they're like fighting on the edge, trying to not get run off. I can see that happening in this game because you're going to put your stabilizers like close to the edge. You're not going to put them in the middle of the zone because they got to attract each other. So there could be another side trying to put up stabilizers, trying to attract it, and then this other side comes boom and like crashes against him, is like knocking him off the edge. There could be some really awesome fights centered around the edge of a map. The edge of a map is usually wasted. This adds tons of points of interest to fight over.
It really does. And it really, I think the part of this that really interests me the most is going to be the broad strategical points of it. For instance, if we're Arthurians and we're looking at this and we're like, okay, on our server the Tuatha are the weakest faction. They're putting up the least fight. And while we want a good fight, of course, tactically we want to get closer to Camelot. So maybe we're going to reach over for the islands that are closer to the Tuatha because they can't put up as good of a fight, and we're just going to kind of seed some of the ones over there by the Vikings and let them worry about that. And they may be doing the same thing. They may be on the other side going, well, we're going to take this stuff from the Tuatha, and eventually we'll meet, and by the time we meet, we'll be like halfway into the Tuatha's territory where they actually have a certain advantage because they can respawn quicker and get to us more quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about balance? How do you guys feel? It seems like the strong keep getting stronger, though, right? Like if the Arthurians...
Well, not necessarily, because if you have too much land, it's hard to travel, it's more stuff to defend, more points of entrance. It's
harder to defend.
I mean, the bigger your territory is, the harder it is to defend it. So there will certainly be a point where, you're going to be like, this is pretty much the maximum we can keep. I mean, we've been for a week trying to expand the territory, and every time we take the next island, the next day, the Vikings come back and take it, and if they don't take this, they take some other territory, and we have to go there and defend it, and while we're defending it, it's what to come and take, so...
That's the standard answer, though. That's always the standard answer. People said that in ESO. If there's one side that has a lot, then they have more surface area to cover. But there are benefits, though. The more land you have, they've talked about how you can build roads, and on these roads you can travel faster.
Yeah.
So they're going to have really quick access running through these roads. They're going to have more resources, more places to build buildings. The more buildings you have are better defenses while people are trying to break through. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
There's one concept we kind of forget because we're so used to it now. It's still, again, the travel time. What they mean by faster for the roads, for example, it was more geared toward the hauling, which is moving resources. MG said, I don't know if it's still in place, but it was one of his promises, that the mounts won't be as fast as the speed classes. So, for example, a bard that can make you run faster will make you run faster than a mount. So the mounts are not going to be essential. They're going to be useful for a lot of reasons, but not essential for going back to a fight.
Yeah, and we also have, you mentioned, Ziz mentioned that the factions that has more territory in it, etc., builds the roads and builds everything, and they have more resources, etc. They're not going to have so much more resources because we have the realm system where the king of the realm gives more resources to the factions that are losing, so they have a fighting chance, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, I can totally see this problem happening. Where the Vikings get so much territory, it's freaking impossible to break the empire, right? Well, because they just have so much land. But I mean, it's going to come about.
I tend to agree with Chris, though, that the travel time, to me, I think, is a strong component of this. Because even if you do have this huge empire, they have lots of resources, yes, but they're not necessarily going to gain more people. So it is harder to defend. I know that's always the default line. It's harder to defend. But what we also have to remember is travel time for the weaker faction, they're going to lose a lot of territory. But theoretically, all their battles are going to be close, or a lot of their battles are probably going to be closer to their main territory. So they only have to hop over like one island to get to these people who are stealing their islands, and then they're going to have a much faster respawn and travel time to get back there to beat the crap out of them. Because when they die, they have to go all the way back across the map, and then they'll have roads, but they have to start hauling ass across those roads to get back all the way over to where the island next to the Tuatha spawn, starting area. Well, they can just get there in like a minute and respawn and go back over there.
And that's why I think there should be no forward camps, because forward camps are going to just break that completely.
In that configuration,
the instant travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. The forward camp had instant travel where people could just die. We're talking about ESO. People could just die and then respawn. That's a problem with ESO system is you can just go to a keep and then instant travel all the way around to the other side of the map if you control it. So the negative of having so much land to control, there was no negative because you could instant travel.
Exactly.
Here, there shouldn't be any instant travel. You're going to have to run. You're going to have to find a way over there.
You don't have the transition lines that you have in ESO, right? ESO has transition lines connecting the keeps. So if you want a bunch of keeps and they're connected to each other, you can instantly teleport from one to the other. That's the kind of stuff we're not going to have in Camelot Unchained. So in ESO you had to break the transition lines, but it was hard to do that sometimes, and then people just kept traveling. And even if you broke, you didn't break it completely, right? You broke just part of it. So it's
there were two that people in chat are kind of mentioning the Veil Storms. I had this idea earlier that I was thinking about the context of the map and how we can have some objectives to it, some things you can do besides swap territories. Because I mean, that's cool and all, it's great, but we look at games like PlanetSide where you swap castles over and over again. After a while, it gets boring. You're like, oh, I took the base again. I had this yesterday. Whoop-de-doo. So. But people are talking about Veil Storms, and I had this idea. We've been thinking about Veil Storms as this natural thing that just happens occasionally. And they've said that they're going to have them where they might come in occasionally and destroy keeps and stuff. And I had the idea, what if you could have an objective where maybe there's like a ley line or something deep in someone's territory where if you could actually get there and hold it, you could maybe bring some kind of a relic or something in there and perform like this long ritual and summon a Veil Storm that would jack up all, maybe not destroy.
That's actually already in place.
But
there's already kind of in place because
you already
MG
thought
said,
of it, Bellic.
I haven't seen anything about summoning Veil Storms anywhere.
So outdated.
Not summoning Veil Storm, but MG said that in places where a lot of magic is happening, it disturbs the Veil. So in big battles, there are chances of a Veil Storm happening because so much magic is thrown around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true, but that's
might
not exactly
harm
what I mean, though.
Both. Yeah, that's not exactly the same. But if, for example, forcing a battle on an enemy to actually make, depending on the frequency of those Veil Storms in big battles, forcing a battle to make a Veil Storm that actually might damage the keep itself or the spawn point or whatever objective you want to take. Yes, you take hits too, but the defenders do also. So that might also be a strategy to take points.
What I was actually getting to, though, was what Alistair said about, say the Vikings have this huge empire, they've taken over all this territory with stabilizers they can defend and stuff, and say a smaller attack force manages to get to, say there was like a ley line temple or something deep in their territory, you could get into it and hold it long enough to summon a Veil Storm that might disrupt their stabilizers and start breaking the map up again. So then they could run in and defend them. Maybe they could claim them back and save some of the territory. But maybe there's some kind of an objective you could do that would be hard to do, but could feasibly disrupt a bunch of the stabilizers in the world. And
as long as it's player driven, I'm okay with that. Because in my head for a second, I was thinking, well, maybe because we're talking about how if one side gets too strong, and I was like, what if it's just naturally, just automatically happens where if one side gets too big? But people hate that, right? It's like it's not fair that I'm winning and I get penalized by the computer system, right? But like you're saying, Velik, if it's player initiated, where it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody watches StarCraft, but there's certain abilities in that game that like have huge swings, right? Where it can totally suck, or this one thing can like totally swing a fight. And a Veilstorm could be that. It's a risk. You're probably going to die, but if you go in there and you pull it off, this Veilstorm's going to come down and it totally swings the fight.
When I was thinking about that too, because they were talking about coming in and maybe periodically making the Veilstorms if there were too many keeps around and stuff. And I was like, but that's going to kind of piss off players if the devs are doing it, because they might say, well, the devs do that to us all the time. They trash our crap. But if it's player driven,
right?
You know,
exactly. I mean, you give the players a chance to go in there and then just disrupt things, and the time that it's going to take for the enemy to rebuild that, you can change the balance a little bit. So you can come and attack with a smaller force and still win, right? So it is an interesting concept and an idea, and I hope that that they're listening.
And you're talking to Alistair, right? You're talking about rebuilding. Velik, one thing you said was how in PlanetSide 2, people are always fighting over the same buildings, right? Oh, I have this, and it's pointless. It's something the devs made. Same in ESO, same in Guild Wars 2. You don't care because it's part of the background.
I think it's better since we build the keeps in this.
Right, you build it. You spent your time. You went out and you got all the stuff.
Your resources,
right?
Not
you
just
spent your time, your resources. You built your keep. You have your stuff there, and not only is it people are going to take my stuff, but I can go take theirs as well, right? Like,
yeah, and we have to consider that stuff that is hard to take, hard to destroy, and stable probably took a lot of time and effort and organization to build.
Exactly.
So they're not going to be able to just do it again, right? Oh, we freaking, summoned a Veilstorm and it exploded their main keep here on the frontier of this island. They're not going to just go in there in half an hour and repair it, right? It's going to take a while. So, and that's the cool thing. So there's a lot of elements to mess with, I guess.
I definitely think it's better that we're building the buildings. It's going to make them more meaningful. I still have the fear, though, that if the RVR game is just about taking those territories and swapping them back and forth, there's no other objectives. It's going to be planet-side boring. Eventually, it will take longer because the buildings are more meaningful and we have to build them up. So it does give us more to do with that. But I do have the fear that eventually, after maybe take 6 months, maybe take a year, but of doing that same thing. We build the keep, they destroy the keep. We build the keep, we take their keep, they take their keep back, come back and destroy our keep. We rebuild it with a different keep, maybe in a different spot. You do that for 6 months, and then you're like, well, I've just been doing the exact same thing over and over again for 6 months.
I understand what you're saying, because there's no feeling of like, I won. There's no end, and I won it. And I feel, but what about?
I definitely don't want resets. I'm not even going to say that.
Right, but what about like other games? Like what about Eve? Right? Does Eve have this sort of territory? I haven't played Eve, but does it have this territory control? Because they're very successful.
No, well, I mean they do have territory control, yes, and it takes a long time to swap territory, though. I mean that's not like an everyday thing. It takes months of planning and work to take someone else's territory, and that's not what people are doing most of the time. Most of the time, people are doing one-on-one combat, or they're traveling around doing mining, and you can switch to do different things. In this game, we've got crafting, and we've got fighting.
But MJ did say in the video, the shortest length of time he said was days, weeks, and months.
Yeah.
So
and I definitely think
it might take forever to change the territory. Yeah, depending on how close to each other in terms of power the factions are.
But depending also on how much territory you have, the first few islands will take shorter time to convert. But maybe when you have like 20 or a third of the map on your own territory, the next will take months to actually reach your island, change to your faction, and the landscape moves. It might take, the more you have, the longer it will take. That also balances things, because while it's transitioning, it will probably be, or it should be, easier to take back for the other factions.
Yeah, I'm actually very worried about what Ziz just said with there's no end. I don't want resets either, but you need
some accomplishment.
People are gonna stop caring after a while. Yeah, they're gonna be like, well, I mean, I already took all this map and lost it, and took it again and lost it, and took it again and lost. I mean, who cares at this point, right? I mean, I'm just gonna go craft this thing,
I feel like they really need some kind of objectives that are not I won the server. but it's just some. That's why I mentioned the Veilstorm thing, because that would be like a huge objective. Like, oh, we fucked up their empire,
right?
A little bit, and maybe not completely, but a little bit. So
you see it all the time too. And other things though is everything, and people hate the idea, but that's why people like to raid. Is they get finished with the raid and we accomplish this, and they move on. And maybe they need some sort of, I don't know what it is, but like if you gather, I don't know, if you gather 5 islands together and you hold it for a period of time, there's something that happens, right? Or if you hold
you got
more,
an achievement.
or not an achievement. I hate achievements.
I hate achievements.
But
Titles,
I agree with both of you, Alistair.
I think titles could be cool, though. I mean, wouldn't completely solve this, but I think titles could be another thing they could do for, like, experience. You know, like, you have conquered this much, you've spent this much time killing, but you've killed X number of people. The king has decreed that you are now a squire of his court or some crap. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean,
cool.
one good thing about the game is it's slowed down so much, right? In most games, you're doing things repeatedly. Whatever it is, you could take a keep in Guild Wars 2 or ESO. You could take the same keep 5 or 6 times in one day. And slowing that down a lot to where this island you're fighting over, you only got it once in the past year, right? That kind of helps prevent this problem a lot. But at the same time, I could hypothetically see you've been playing the game for 2 or 3 years. This is the 10th time that you've got this middle island part. It's got iron on it, just like your other island has iron on it. Why do I care anymore, right? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think there are some good resource diversification. I mean, you got the depths, you have resources, you have keeps. There are some different things you can do.
Yeah, and I also think that there will be individual goals for the players in terms of min-maxing. I really want to build this epic sword, and it requires this material that hasn't, spawns in this island, or it spawns on this part of the depths, and the closest entrance is on this island, whatever it is. So we gotta get there, and then these players, you have a few players with that interest, and then you gather them up and start to push, and then you get the resource, and the reward is now you can get this awesome sword to. You have the resource to craft this awesome sword, and and over time things are going to break, so you're going to have to do it again, right? So but those are only if you really care about having that awesome sword. After a while, after you had 3 of those swords and the third one is breaking, are you really going to go do that again? I don't know.
Well, if you're hypothetical, let's say you have 4 pieces of land that you can work on, right? And those pieces of land give you wood, and they give you ore, and they give you stuff. Why go take another piece of land that's just going to give you the same stuff you already have, right? That kind of seems pointless. But
maybe it has better resources.
Better resources. But what if there's some some special points of interest, like you're talking about, Velik? What if on one of these islands there's this like ruins, and if you control the ruins, you can go there and you can summon Veilstorms? Or what if there's another island across the way, and if you control that one, it calls down a dragon, or whatever it is. Maybe these strategic points of interest that you're fighting over, not just for more iron that you already have, but that's the only place I can get that, and I have to control it.
Yes.
That's also why it's tied to the crafting, because it's been said also that different resources will spawn in different faction territories. So sometimes taking the island, taking the stabilizer will not be interesting, will not be the objective, but holding the resource bubbles and letting them keep their island, but farming it. So holding it without transforming it might become an objective, which means fights will happen. There doesn't have to be a meta about just getting the most territory. The game itself will regulate that by saying, okay, you have half the map. Now you have access to only those resources. What do? You have to let go of some of it to start farming other resources to build your keeps, your equipments, everything. So the map will switch depending also on the faction's needs, I think.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Yeah, you can drain a resource too. Like you drain the mine, and then now it's kind of pointless, and it's going to take a while to respawn. So it's time to move on to something else, right?
Yeah, it's a fair point. That I mean, you're going to swap territory back and forth because there's going to be territory you want to claim and you want to get closer to Camelot, whatever its purpose is. I don't know. Maybe it has the most rare and exotic materials in it that you can mine. I don't know. But you're going to want to claim territories. But there are going to be cases, like you mentioned, where you just want to get over there and get resources. You don't need your entire faction to dedicate to claiming that island just for y'all to get those resources. Yeah. You just need to hop over. It'd be less time consuming to just take boats over there, attack it, let your people do some mining, and then haul ass out.
Or you can just go in there to disrupt the enemy, right? You know, it's enemy territory, and they're getting resources. You have your own resources back in your own territory. Now you just want to stop them from getting theirs because, you know, you're attacking their keep, and you don't want them to rebuild. So you just go in there to disrupt, right? So there's all that. But, you know.
But here's one question that's kind of semi-related, and that is this going to make things too problematic for crafters? Crafters have to have mats, and if people are constantly just disrupting their ability to get mats from everywhere, is only the dominant faction going to be able to get mats?
Well, we're talking about how you get mats from, you might need a special kind of material that's on the other side of the map, right? And so it's difficult to go over there. But what if when you kill those people, their armor already has some of those materials and you just scavenge what they left, and then that special kind of iron or whatever it is, you break it down, you have some from it.
It could be cool.
Yeah. But they haven't told us much about player looting and stuff. I mean,
there won't.
Maybe you don't take their stuff.
the last news we've had on the forums is there's no player looting.
Right.
The only thing you loot from the players will be the souls.
Right.
That you use for crafting, but you could
probably
use
materials that they're carrying too, right? I mean, like if they have a caravan and stuff.
If they have materials, especially for crafters that just come back from gathering, probably they will drop the materials because they're not holding them; they're holding them. So you might want to destroy the card where the mats are to get them on your own card.
Yeah, but once the materials are transformed into gear, then the gear doesn't drop anymore, right?
Yeah, I'm not talking about like they drop their gear. Maybe it's kind of like a mob. You know, you kill a mob and somehow magically this thing pops up in existence. You know, just trying to get those resources.
Yeah, they said they're not going to be stuff like that either.
There will be resources. There's going to be mobs too. I mean, there's going to be monsters in the world, and maybe those resources you can get from those monsters.
Yes, but like like me killing you and then looting some random piece of gear from you, that's not going to happen.
No. Why could you not have some resources? If you are a Viking, why could I not kill you and take some fur that was on your clothing?
I don't know.
It's already been transformed, and I don't know.
Because they said
it's not raw material. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
because they don't want to.
I'm just trying to think of a way to fix this problem when you're talking about where if the resource you need is on the other side of the map and you never get to that side of the map, how are you going to get the resources?
You're never going to get the resource.
I don't think it'll be possible for them to be completely restrictive, but maybe if they have more of them. But they have more of them. You have some, but they have more. Then that could be balanceable.
That or just it's a small group. You don't have to go there 50 people to go gather. Maybe one crafter, two crafters, and 3 bodyguards. You can sneak in there and gather and then come back.
And all they have to do is not put the resource in a single spot, right? Like
that's already spread out.
Yeah. They said the resource bubble will spawn randomly in the territory, so that shouldn't be a problem. But the map itself, what I think we're a lot talking about the meta, the map claiming, the big battles, but it's not going to be all the game. There are going to be big battles, but there's also going to be a lot of skirmishes all over the map.
I hope so.
I don't think.
Well, that's why they're putting stuff across the map is to encourage you to go over there and fight.
Exactly.
That's why everything isn't on your side of the map.
I think also attacking and defending keeps and stabilizers will take a lot of planning. It's not going to be something like ESO where you need 20 or 30 people if you plan your thing well. You need 20 people to claim a keep, and then you move on to the next.
Maximum siege. And just shoot infinitely, right? Yeah, I mean, siege is going to have to be built. You're going to have ammunition. Yeah.
I really hope you're right, because a lot of people keep talking about the big keep battles, but I'm much more interested in small skirmishes than...
Exactly.
Big keep battles are fun
I think there's going to be a lot of that, too.
Well, there should be.
I think the big keeps will require a lot of people and a lot of coordination, and only the big guilds will be able to do that amongst themselves. Most people will have to coordinate between many guilds to actually do that.
Yeah.
And the big keep can be a point, like, you may not want to go have a big fight at the big keep, but you know they're bringing a ton of resources into that keep. So you get your little group, and you're just making a circle around the big keep, and you're just finding people coming in, and you're picking them off there. Yeah, I mean, awesome stuff. We're coming up on an hour, and we want to try to keep this around an hour so it's not too long. Let me ask, final thoughts, things that we haven't talked about that was on your mind. Velik, Alistair, Chris, let's go around the horn. We'll go clockwise, Alistair. What do you think about this crazy BSC map?
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about the balancing as usual. I mean, if they lose their hand on the travel times, it can get too boring. Attacking can be something that never happens because people are not willing to go through the effort of even getting out. Like, oh, come on, we're gonna take half an hour just to get there, and then I don't even know these people. I don't know how good they are. This group's probably gonna fail. We're gonna die, and then it's another half an hour, right? So if the travel times are too long and it's too hard to do any kind of attacks, then it's gonna be hard to have those skirmishes, like Velik said, because people are not gonna want to group with people they don't know or risk going after something if the effort is too big and you don't trust that they're going to be able to accomplish it, right? So that kind of destroys a little bit of the community aspect. So that's my biggest worry right now. And obviously, I'm curious to see how all this stabilizer thing is going to work. Are they going to be fixed in place? Are we going to have stabilizers that players can build? Can you build stabilizers pretty much on any edge of the island or just on this specific spot? Respawn points, all that. So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. But, I mean, the first thing that I would like to know is really the travel times and how is that going to work with the roads and everything and boats and whatever.
How it all feels, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think?
I actually really like that idea and the changing map, because I think it will actually encourage people to move around, and I really want to. I want the stabilizer system to be not like the travel in ESO in the PvP map, that you can take a stabilizer deep in the territory of the other alliance, and that it will take a piece of their land anyway, that you don't have to go from the outside all the way to the inside, but you can go wherever you want to take the map. That and the changing landscapes, I really like that idea, and I really want to see how they implement that. And my worries, what Velik started with, is what is Camelot? What is going to be the objective of that city? What is exactly in the center of the map? And so that's pretty much, and like Alistair, the travel time, that will be the real tricky part, making it long enough to be significant, to make death being really significant, but not long enough to discourage people from fighting all across the map.
Yeah, essentially, I think they should, sorry to step in here, but I think what they should do with the respawn times is like running back to where you were fighting should take long enough for the enemy to be able to rebuild part of whatever they're defending, or and repair some of the stuff and move their positions maybe. Not longer than that, because then it sucks if you go attack a place and then it doesn't work on the first time, and then when you come back they have all the stuff back in place plus something extra, right? Because it took so long for you to come back. So that kind of stuff would be not good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I like all the ideas they have for it. I love the idea of the broken up, the island, the sea of broken up islands. I love the idea of being able to maneuver the terrain to your liking and move things closer to you, and leave some of them alone. And I think it has great potential for community-wide strategy to get the big guilds together talking and deciding how they want to position the map. What do they want their objectives to be? You know, 3 guilds can get together and go, okay, we want this island, and this island. Let's go claim them, take them over, move them in. You'll be responsible defending this, so on and so forth. They can do all kinds of stuff. My biggest fear is the PlanetSide 2 boredom situation where you get tired of taking the same stuff, going back and forth. They have a lot of objectives, well, not objectives, but they have a lot of things we could possibly do. We could fight over resources, we could fight over territory, we could fight over Camelot, whatever it's good for. We can do a lot of different things. We can do keep battles, we can do skirmishes, we can fight in the depths to get whatever, the stuff from there. So I think there is a lot of stuff we can do, but I think without some sense of achievement, it all still comes down to the potential for getting bored with doing that. I do think there needs to be some sort of in-game achievement. I think the daily report things that come out are great. I think it's a cool idea, but I don't think it substitutes completely for some sort of an accomplishment. Taking keeps are going to be an accomplishment, but that's the main achievement I see is you take the keep, it's yours, you tear it down, whatever, you have this island now, and you're like, we have this island. That's only going to last for a couple of months before you're like, okay, we're sick and tired of taking this island. Where's my achievement now? That no longer counts. I'm tired of getting that and feeling achieved because of it.
It doesn't matter anymore
something
because
else to do.
Nobody even defends it anymore, right? So, I mean, who cares if I have the island? Well, we held this island for 3 months. Yeah, after the first 2 weeks, nobody was even attacking anymore. So it's not really an accomplishment, right? Yeah.
So that's my fear. I think if we had if they have some sorts of other, probably even smaller, just active things you can get, like maybe some PvP titles you can work towards achieving from your king, or some objectives on the map aside from just taking the islands, I think that would help for keeping things fresh in the long term.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, there's definitely some questions. I agree with you guys. I think it's exciting. The stabilizers you're going to be able to fight over, they're going to be dynamic because they'll be all over the world. It's not the same place every time. There'll be our keeps that we're fighting over. Last week, if you missed the episode, go check it out on the YouTube. We talked about the building system. You can see some buildings they drew on here already. TTP right there in the middle. Anybody else catch that? No? You will.
The TTP.
That's right. I think it's going to be good. I agree. I'm worried a little bit about it. Now you saw it. Alice.
Oh, God. Jesus. Oh, man.
But I think it's going to be good. I think the idea, maybe out of everything, there's a lot of awesome ideas, skill building, but literally having the world move around might be the craziest thing I've ever seen. And it could be really awesome. I think it's going to be great. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, 3 p.m. Eastern, live, and always on YouTube to watch the recording. Thank you, Chris, Alistair, and Velik, and we will see you next time.
Be seen.